Welcome to another edition of One More Light with me, Val Kleinhans, where we chat mental health and we work to break the stigma. We're talking all about body positivity and self-love with the champion of both of those things. Jesse Zahacy is in the building. Jesse, you are a joy to follow on Instagram. I'm so glad that you're here right now. Thank you for being here.
Oh my gosh, no, thank you for having me. Are you kidding? It's the pleasure's all mine.
It's this is gonna be a fun one, I know. Well, so while I was stalking your IG, I know you just took a trip to Arizona recently too, which made me jealous because that's a part of the country I've never been to. How was it?
Oh my God, it was amazing. No scorpions, unfortunately. I didn't see anything. It was
Oh,
really nice, hot weather, but I was really hoping on one of the hikes I was going to see a little bit of Arizona wildlife, but
mm.
nothing of the sort.
That's probably for the better because when I think Arizona wildlife, I think diamondbacks, I think rattlesnakes, and I'm like, you know what? That's probably good that you didn't run into any of them.
You're actually, you know what? You're probably so right. I was thinking, I'm like, scorpions, snakes, spiders. Yeah, it's for the best. I didn't run into anything.
It's
I'm
just,
like, I
woo.
just want to dump flesh.
Yeah. I love it. Your content always is a joy, of course, and body positivity, self-love, that's a big focus. That's essentially a big part of what you do. Where has your self-love journey taken you?
Oh my gosh. It has taken me from hating myself and just from a couple years ago to now, I'm a completely different person, to really put it into perspective. I was in a really dark place, mentally, physically. And the worst part about it is people would never know. I would never make it um, look like a problem. I was at my skinniest. I was the most fit of my life, but my
Mm,
mental health suffering. And now, truly realizing I had a problem and an eating disorder, I feel like I am the healthiest I've been in my entire life now, in my body and my being in this present moment.
beautiful. Well, so which came first? The realization that the physical health needed work or the mental health needed work? Was one ever more prevalent than the other?
I think honestly, mental health, I think they kind of go hand in hand. If your mental health is shit, then
Yeah.
your 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 physical health is going to be shit. You can't have your cake and eat it too, is kind of where I feel was where I was really lacking.
Mhm.
I just had terrible mental health. I doubted myself. I just thought, at my skinniest, I'm 5'2", and I want to say I was at 129 pounds. So I was so thin that I was fitting into size small,
Yeah.
size extra small, and it just was never good enough. And I just woke up one day and I really looked in the mirror and I more or less told myself, this is never ever going to be good enough for who I am. This is just going to become, it's turned into an eating disorder, to it's going to become anorexia. And I woke up one day and I realized I didn't want to keep going with the path that I was going down, essentially.
Mm, okay. So it was just a quick moment of self-awareness and self-realization.
I would say so. Yeah, it was just honestly, yeah. One day I just woke up and I'm like, I don't want to do this shit anymore. I don't want to feel this way anymore. I want to feel healthy regardless of how I look. And now, I'm probably, well, without a doubt, I'm the biggest I've ever been. I'm 5'2", and um, I'm probably, oh gosh, I want to say maybe 220 pounds, but I don't feel like weight has anything to do with your health. I treat
Mhm.
my body with respect. I eat healthy and I exercise where I can. And um yeah, I mean, I'm the healthiest being I've ever been, both mentally and physically, in my body now.
Okay. So have you stopped looking at a scale?
I
Does that
threw it
help?
completely out. Yeah,
Okay.
it's completely gone. So I have no idea. That's really why I kind of was like, oh, how much do I weigh? Um, yeah, my biggest problem was definitely attaching my worth to a number. So any scales, both weight scale and food scale, I just completely got rid of. They're out of my house, out of my life, out of my mind.
See, when I started to get a little bit more consistent with like my activity level too, that was the way that I did it, was just say, you know what, I'm not going to worry about the weight itself. I can't worry about the weight itself because that can be representative of so many different things. I just want to make sure that I'm active. I just want to make sure that I'm mobile. And as soon as I made that the goal instead, I don't know, somehow that got easier to maintain, and then the pressure on myself like mentally was way less. Then I need to meet this
Yeah,
goal or I need to meet this number.
absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more. That's awesome that you came to that realization. How old were you when you really started to feel that way about yourself?
Well, recently, only recently, because I put on like 20, 25 pounds when I started taking my antidepressants. And for me, I'm close in size. I'm almost 5'2", and I think what 160, 170 pounds somewhere in there now. And I know that I put on at least 20 or 30 the year I started taking my antidepressants. I noticed a change. My family noticed a change, but they didn't want to be like too hard on me, but they were definitely telling me like you're gaining weight. And I was like, I felt so bad. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to punish myself. It just,
Yeah,
why? Like, why am I punishing myself for taking a medication that ultimately keeps me healthy? I would rather have a couple extra pounds on me than be mentally where I was before. And as far as the weight thing, why do I have to care about a number? As long as I'm active and as long as I'm mobile, that's really the
that's
only
all
thing
that
that
matters.
matters.
Yeah,
That's
I
it.
couldn't agree.
It was just a
And then,
perspective shift.
which is so great. I mean, it's great that you had that realization because a lot of people don't.
No.
They want to shake hands with mental health and keeping the weight off, and a lot of people, it's just not a possibility, unfortunately. And for my case, same thing. When I got on my antidepressants, I gained a lot of weight, but
Yeah.
I was okay as long as my mind was healthy.
Yeah. I can live with a few extra pounds.
Exactly.
Honestly, like at that point it was worth it, and that was kind of this the perspective I had to put in it. I'm like, no, I know everybody else is freaked out about a number. I know everybody else is freaked out because I appear a little bit bigger to them, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm unhappy. I am going through a transition. That's all that really means. And
Yeah.
I wished I told myself that a lot sooner because it did take some time to get there. It took like about a year after being on them and realizing, you know what, I think this is me now. And it's time to start accepting it and just being
Yeah.
okay with it. Um, a lot of people define body positivity differently. Like that's a term we use a lot. Everybody has their own definition for it. So I was curious as to what your definition of body positivity is. What does it mean to you?
That's a great question. Body positivity to me is being comfortable and happy in who you are in this present moment.
Mm,
Things are going to come up in your life and things aren't always going to be perfect. Your body, your children, your spouse, your life, but being neutral with who you are and loving yourself when all these other things are happening around you, to me,
mhm.
that's body positivity, is being okay with who you are first and foremost, and then worrying about the other issues at hand after the fact. So essentially being comfortable with who you are now.
Yeah, essentially it's acceptance. I mean, these beautiful changes that you've made and continue to make are all something that we can learn from. I would love if you would just talk to me about the self-awareness part of that you experienced when you realized you needed to prioritize self-love and body positivity for yourself. At what moment did you realize that you had to focus on those things?
Absolutely. Honestly, it was after a trip to Vegas that I was body shamed at a nightclub. Me and my
Oh
girlfriend,
no.
we it was terrible. It was
Uh,
terrible. Um, Went to a nightclub and essentially we were told that we were going to get bottle service. And once we arrived, the bouncer gave us an up and down look and kind of a smug look on his face, and I'm like, oh, well, what was that about? And he kind of gave us like a glance and pointed the finger to general admittance. And I'd said, I texted him and said essentially like, oh, I thought we were getting bottle service, sorry, what's going on?
yeah.
And after that, he had kind of said, you know, in a nicer tone, but you should really be even thankful that you're here, and while you look like that, essentially. Like, it was just very degrading, and it was just such a blow to my ego. And then while we were in bottle service, we actually had a couple guys had asked us how the fat girls got into bottle service.
Oh.
So when I had gotten home, it had shook me so bad that I was really quite taken aback. I was crying, and my girlfriend said to me, why did that shake you so bad? You're so great with how you look 90% of the time, but what changed in that moment? And I said, I truly didn't realize that there were people in this lifetime that were so fat phobic and could say things to your face like that
Mm.
without thinking them in their heads. And it just it broke my heart, to be completely honest. And I told my girlfriend I never ever want to feel like that again about my body. So I told her, because I had started my page up in 2018, but I had stopped because it was just a little bit too involved for me at the time.
Mhm.
And then I told her, I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna start my page back up, my daily dose of self-love. And I'm gonna share my story, because I know that so many other women and individuals struggle with self-love and body positivity and accepting themselves in their bodies. And um here I am now. Essentially, I'm fine with the worst thing people calling me is fat. I could be called a lot worse, and that word just has no meaning to me anymore at all.
Wow. So, like, I feel for you. Like, that is a terrible situation. I mean, and unfortunately, you're not the only one. I mean, we all hear those horror stories. So, did you stay at the club, or I'm applauding you for even staying, because it sounded like you did.
You know what? I did. And of course, I thought I would teach them a lesson. And I'm like, I'm going to drink all of their vodka.
Yes.
And you know what? I ended up having a really fun time that night. It was just me and my best friend. And I mean, like, she's just such a badass, in the sense, like, someone could just rocket any kind of word towards her, and it just rolls right off of her back. She's like, you're a clown, whatever, like, leave me alone. And she's just so rock solid in who she is. She's just such a badass. So I'm like, I want to be like you. Why can't I be like that? And she's like, you can, and you will. You can't let it affect you. So that's really what this year and this page has been about, is becoming that rock solid person for myself that I needed at that time. I needed me to be rock solid, and I wasn't. So I need to
Yeah.
be that rock self, and other women that feel like they're not good enough to be in a club with a million other people just because they're fat.
Yeah. Oh, woo. Wow, 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 wow. I like, the imagery is, like, still something that I'm having a hard time getting out of my head, of, like, having somebody with the balls to, like, look you in the face and say those terrible things. I
Oh,
like,
it's
how do
like,
you sleep at night? How do you sleep? Because I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. If somebody forced me to behave that way toward another human, I couldn't do it. I
no.
I don't know. I
Just to make someone feel that way, I was just absolutely blown away that there's people like that exist, and they
yeah.
work in a professional setting. That was the most rattling. It was just utter disgust
Oh,
on his. I was like a leper in clown clothing. It was just, he was disgusted I was there and how I looked. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I looked damn good when I went. I was all done up.
period.
Period. It was just, yeah, it was one of those life experiences that just rocks you, and you either it's like a, what's the term, a fight, flight, or whatever run. And I totally just froze.
Yeah,
I didn't
freeze.
react. Didn't have the voice to stick up for myself in that moment and be like,
Mm.
bitch, what are you talking about? I
'Cause
look
they're so
great.
Because 'cause I'm like, This man had a whole, like, gluten-free big old piece of audacity for breakfast this morning.' Like, how else do you what? What? But no, for me, I would probably be just as stunned. I would be like, how did that come out of your mouth? And kudos to you and your friends. And it sounds like the lesson that you learned from that was community is important. Your friend was able to be your rock in that moment and walk you through that. You've built a community around you with the page since then. You have a wonderful following, a supportive following. Everybody is kind to each other from what I've seen in the comments. It's not this cesspool that sometimes corners of the internet very much can be. I would love to hear about the mental health angle in all of this because we agree that, your mental health, your physical health, it all ties together. So the physical stuff might have been visually obvious. The
Yeah.
mental health and the work that you did with your mental health, what did that look like?
So in the last couple of years, as a child and growing up, I was never diagnosed, and my parents, they never wanted to medicate me or anything like that. They didn't want their
Mm,
kid being on medication.
ugh,
What that would have changed just in the last
yeah.
3, I finally went on Lexapro for my anxiety and my depression. And oh my God, has it made such a difference? I
Mm,
feel like a completely different person. I feel like every single day that I was functioning without that medication, I was just a walking anxiety bag. Like I was just so stressed to the point where I didn't even know what I was anxious or upset about. It was just my mental health just was at an all-time low.
mm,
Add in an active eating disorder and work and life and stress. It was literally going to be, it was a spiraling um, cesspool of negativity. Essentially, it was terrible. So in the last couple of years, I decided I'm going to get medicated. So I did. That
mm.
changed. I weight from my anti anxiety depression meds. Um, and I said, you know what? If I'm working on my mental health, why don't I work on um, the appearance that I have of myself in inside my mind as well? Why don't I start
Oh,
working
got
on
it.
my appearance from the outside looking in, essentially? So I knew that I needed to change the narrative into healthier conversations regarding how I looked. Like instead of, oh, I look fat in this. Oh, I look terrible today. Oh my gosh, my best friend is, 2 sizes smaller than me. I can never fit into her clothing.
Mhm.
XYZ. I started changing that into a positive conversation regarding, um, wow, what's one thing a day I like about myself? Or I look really pretty in my new glasses. I bought a new makeup product and I like the way that my lips look in it. So essentially, it was changing the narrative on negative topics to positive. That really changed my mindset around my mental health. First, definitely starting with medication and then moving up into positive self talk.
Okay, and it's almost affirmations, kind of, sort of like, okay, yes. You're looking in the mirror and you go, yes, I am that bitch. Let's go. It's
You get it, 100%, 100%.
no, I want to learn from that. I could use more of that myself. I learned from you that the mental sort of came before the physical. Like one
Yeah.
foot came before the other in that scenario. And I think that's something we all can learn from. Like, oh, okay, the mental portion of that really is a big portion, and it's not one to be underestimated. It's not one to be discounted. Like, it's just as important as the physical. And sometimes it can even put you in the positive direction when it comes to the physical stuff as well. Why did you decide to go public with your story and share everything you learned on this journey?
You know what? I thought, um, if I feel this way, there's got to be another individual out there on the internet looking for someone that looks just like them.
Mhm.
When I grew up, I never had any role models that looked like me. I didn't have any, I didn't have Instagram. I didn't have a plus size community to go to
Right.
with my, and I grew up on Cosmopolitan and Vogue and
Yes, I
me.
know. I'm like, we're probably close in age, so I'm like picturing Paris and Nicole. I'm pitching
Yeah,
Pam. Pam Anderson, Lindsay Lohan. Oh yeah, we're looking at them, and they're these tiny little fembots that are gorgeous and created in a lab somewhere, probably.
Exact
And it's
right?
like, wait a minute, where's the little meatballs? Where are my
Exact
meatballs at? Where are my curvy little meatballs? Not a lot of them. Where they at? No, they don't even have dark hair. That was my whole.
No,
I was like, what? I was like, at that time, like mid late '90s, early 2000s. I was like, where everybody at? Like, where are they at? Like, I couldn't see a lot of people on TV that looked like me until I started seeing like Kat Von D or Avril Lavigne a little bit, and then I was like, oh, it just took some time. They're there, but there's marketing involved, and it's all filtered.
exact
Did you realize that as you were getting, maybe looking back you realize that, because I think we do when we get older.
totally. I mean, yeah, oh, absolutely. There was some growing up that I'm like, hey, okay, okay, we're doing better. I'm seeing more of, me. And yeah, I'm just like, I just know that there's someone out there looking for someone to be a role model.
Yeah.
What I say to my husband every single day is, because he always asks me, like, why are you putting out yourself out there on the internet? Like, internet's a scary place, internet's a vast place, it's a dark place. So why do you do it? And my go-to thing I always say is, if I can help just one person realize their worth and maybe help them just a little bit, then my job is done on the internet. I have done I've done a good job. um, I just want more people that look like me on the internet for when I have a kid and they grow
Yeah.
up, and they can be like, you know what, I look like mom and I'm damn proud.
Yeah, or I'm not such an alien. Like I'm not rare. I'm not, that there are other people in the world like me. There are other people who look like me and are desired. That sort of thing. Because I mean, again, I grew up thinking that every boy in my seventh grade class wanted Britney Spears or Christina Aguilera, and I mean, maybe that's not wrong, but still, like it doesn't mean that someday I wasn't going to be desired or loved. I found a husband. You found a husband.
Yeah,
Someday, somebody is, I think when you're that young, you get caught in that trap of, oh, it's never going to happen for me unless I look like X, Y, and Z. And
exactly.
for the young women out there, that is huge. That is very important to realize that, trust me, it doesn't stay that way. That you will find your person, because men just want a woman. I mean, homosexual or heterosexual men want women. Okay, period. They will find a woman and they will be happy with a woman. Like
Exactly. They
they
really
can't.
don't care that much.
No, they they want woman, and that is it. If they're heterosexual, that's it, and they're good with that. So, what are some ways that we can learn to love ourselves if we're in a particularly like dark spot and we don't even know where to begin? I mean, you began just by picking out like one nice thing to say to yourself a day. That might be one tip. Was there anything else that you found useful when it came to learning to love yourself that you were doing?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I have a couple good tips. I'll spare you all the gory details that I went through, but honestly, my top tips are getting rid of your scale. I know we kind of touched on that.
Mm-hmm.
Getting rid of your food scale, get rid of all of your diet apps, my fitness pal, the BS that you just don't need. You don't need to find out how many calories are in a cup of broccoli and if you can eat it or not. Like, just get rid of it. um that was a huge one for me.
Yeah.
Essentially, I deleted everyone on my social media that didn't make me feel worthy to be on social media.
Okay.
If you put on there that you're just like, you know what, this account kind of makes me feel like shit, get rid of them. Who do you owe that person? What do you owe them? Nothing. So get rid of
Nothing.
them. And I would have, honestly, at the very end of the day, I would have a real good conversation with your friends and your family and just let them know that you're wanting to pursue changes. And some of them, it might not make sense to them. A lot of my family, my journey doesn't make a whole lot of sense to them. And there's some pushback.
Mm.
But you know what? I just had a really open and honest conversation, just letting them know I'm going to be making some changes for me. And that's not going to make sense to everyone. And that's okay. As long as
Period.
you're and healthy. Who
Yeah.
cares about anyone else? This life is about you.
Yeah. Was that conversation hard? How did they receive that?
It was a lot of them were great. A lot of them were really, really amazing. And they said, like, as long as you're happy, as long as you're doing it
Mhm.
for you, we're so happy for you. That's
Mhm.
amazing. Some people, there was a lot of pushback with the, I don't know what you're doing, if what you're doing is healthy.
Oh.
Uh, oh, okay, well, it is. It is healthy. I can be fat and I can be beautiful and I can be all of these things mixed into one, and I can be healthy and fat.
Mhm.
Your worth and the number on the scale does not define your health. Um, so I just said, I'm going to do what I'm doing right now. And if you choose to follow along for my journey, that's great. If you choose not to, that's fine as well.
Yeah.
But what I'm doing is for me, and I don't need to hear it from you.
Facts. That's it. That's the period on that sentence. So
Very,
what's what is next for you? What's next for your page? What can we look forward to that's coming?
you know what? I think just a lot more content creating. I want to get a little bit more creative with what I'm putting out there. I mean,
Mhm.
I started this page, oh gosh, April will be a year. So we got a
Oh,
2
okay.
months. So, I mean, I'm always, always, always going to be showing up for those that show up for me. And honestly, just a lot of really cool projects are in my future. So, I mean, if you want to follow along for the journey, I will be your biggest cheerleader.
Just hit follow. That's all. If you want to get it. I love it. Jesse, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your nuggets of wisdom. We learned a lot. Thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you so much for having me.